they have running altogether.
All right, friends, we're off here once again for Louisville ProActivist Report. I'm at the rally against the war in Iran, so please share this out, like and subscribe.
U.S. naval assets, the only country from the verge of developing nuclear weapons, and we are taking a belligerent stance against them for no perceptible reason when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to the good of the people of the United States, Iran, or any place else, except for a tiny fraction of defense contractors who are making a killing on this. This is about wealth transfer from all of us to a few of them. And it's not about anything else except for maybe the ego of our current commander-in-chief. This is going to go on, and we're going to make a difference in this. We're going to have to pay attention. We're going to have to be ready to move on this and see this as part of what Veterans for Peace calls the integrated program for understanding that this is war at home and war abroad. That the militarization of our society with policing, with social control, with racism is part and parcel of the expansion of our military power around the world in an imperial system that is designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. Period. What do we want? Peace! When do we want it?
Now and forever!
No more war!
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 Thank you!
Thank you!
You could ask yourself the question of why they didn't arrest that general when he arrived at the airport in Baghdad from Damascus. No, they had to use a missile on him after he left the airport. That's immigration control, I guess. Steve, thank you.
Thanks, Harold. Yeah, I mean, that the line that is coming out of the White House and that is being taken seriously by some, even those who are critical, is that the assassination of Iranian Quds General Qasem Soleimani who is a major charismatic figure in the region. His assassination was to prevent his plans from going forward to attack U.S. journalists. U.S. diplomats and military personnel in the region. This, of course, is well, it's a lie, and it's a transparent lie. It's the kind of lie that you tell people like with a wink and a nod. This is a man. We're not talking about the head of some tiny faction. This is a general and the second most powerful person in Iran. It doesn't matter if he's dead. The plans of the organization will go forward. That's the way bureaucracies work everywhere. So, I mean, the justification is idiotic, and anyone who believes it or repeats it is buying into transparent kind of Gulf of Tonkin fake.
Exactly. We've been here before. We've heard this story before.
This is not new. Well, false flag operations. I mean, this is the best historical example, of course, is at the beginning of the Second World War. The German, the Third Reich, the Nazi regime, started the war by, of course, after a long escalation, but started the war by dressing troops up in the uniforms of Polish soldiers, and then having them attack German outposts or pretend to attack them. In some cases, actually, some people were actually killed because of bad planning, but pretending and then covering it in the media and saying, now we have reason to retaliate. Of course, it was a false flag operation. So when you pretend to be the other side, this is what we have. In these days, of course, with virtual reality, you don't even have to have uniforms, or you just create the messaging that this is happening, that we are being attacked. The other issue, of course, is the mischaracterization. I mean, the riots that happened outside of the U.S. Embassy in Iraq is being described as an assault. Well, an assault implies some kind of military action or terrorist action. This was a riot. This was people fucking pissed off by the continued U.S. presence. Yes, these were folks who have sympathy for Iran. They're Shia Muslims rather than Sunni, and so they have sympathy for Iran. But having sympathy for Iran and disliking American military policy doesn't make you an enemy. It makes you pretty much everyone on Earth.
Steve, you're head of Veterans for Peace. Tell us about your military service and what made you dedicated to peace, and what do some of the other Veterans for Peace feel about the importance of peace?
Well, I mean, of course, Veterans for Peace is an organization that's been around for now since the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that is dedicated to taking our military experience and saying, this isn't the way we want to live. We're not necessarily all pacifists, but we all say that almost virtually every war that you can imagine is both immoral and stupid. Moreover, there are tons and tons of veterans out there who even if they're not philosophically dedicated to peace, would say, again, this is stupid. Why are we fighting stupid wars? And pretty much all of them are stupid. Well, I mean, this goes back to what justifications can you possibly have. For my part, I was in a nuclear missile unit in Germany in the early 80s, at the height of the German peace movement and the rise of the Green Party at the time, and I was moved by what I saw and by the recognition that what I was doing was a violation of all moral order, and that I was, even though I never launched those missiles, thank God, I was doing an injury to the world, and of course the injury happens regardless of whether we fight. Every dollar that we spend on the military is a dollar that we take away from education, housing, healthcare, the public good. And this is that's a paraphrase actually from Dwight Eisenhower. So that's my take on this, that we are wasting our humanity, wasting the possibility of a genuine public good, transferring wealth from the poor and the middle class and the good of the planet to a few, a very few. And keep in mind, of course, that the United States military is the largest polluter, largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world as an organization. So in other words, there is no reason to fight another war. There's no reason to keep fighting the wars that we are fighting. There's no reason to keep dropping the bombs at a rate of at least one a day, often much more than that, around the world. We're bombing
if I get you on
7,
camera,
8 countries almost continuously around the world. We don't hear about that. I say, I'm glad that people are hearing about this, that people are getting to see what the dangers are. I don't want us to drop into some kind of hysteria, thinking that war is inevitable. We're already at war. Escalation is not inevitable. It depends on what we do. We are not wholly responsible. We don't have that power, but we are responsible.
Yay! Thank you.
I want to read part from the Cross of Iron speech by Dwight D. Eisenhower, and then somebody else come out and take the microphone after this. I know some of y'all can talk about peace and war, but Dwight D. Eisenhower in his speech said, "Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. The world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. The cost of one heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It is 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of a 60,000 population. It is 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete highway. Maybe that is it. We pay for a single fighter with 500,000 bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. This, I repeat, is the best way of life to be found on the road the world has been taking. This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. What do we want?
Peace!
When do we want it?
Now! Yay!
Hi, my name is Golan Zavala, and I'm here with the DSA broadly, with the Atherton YDSA more specifically. And just wanted to say a few words. I was born in Nicaragua. I was raised for the first 8 years of my life there. I know that a lot of the people here are old enough to remember the proxy war that the United States waged there. Now they devastated the revolution we had there and brought back neoliberalism to that country. What we are seeing now is again an expansion of American imperialism in Iran. A lot of the people that I'm here canvassing with for Bernie, are not even old enough, well, weren't even born when we started the war in Afghanistan, which is now the longest running war in American history. And here we are trying to instigate yet another one. What we're going to see here is not necessarily the reinstatement of the draft or whatever. We may not even be directly impacted by whatever conflict ends up taking place in Iran. But there are going to be millions and millions of Iranians and people in the surrounding region that are going to be so fundamentally negatively impacted by what is going on. The migrant crisis that Europe is now facing is only going to intensify. The countries surrounding Iran, which are already so overpacked with refugees, are going to be they're going to receive even more and more of these millions and millions of people that are going to flee this conflict. We are going to put Iran into a tailspin of enduring conflict, the way that we've seen in so many other countries in the Middle East. And that's simply unacceptable. We cannot allow the United States to continue waging these wars of empire. And that is why we need fundamental systemic change. We need to make sure that so many of the young people that are here protesting today do not have to continue protesting as they get older and older, as I know so many of you have had to. And we thank all of you for that. The people that have come out and protested, going all the way back to the Korean War, to the Vietnam War, whatever it is that you have come out and protested and continued fighting for a better, more peaceful world. We thank you so much for that. And thank you.
Yay!
Who else? Who else has a word for peace? Come on up.
Thank you. And I want to thank the Veterans for Peace. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. My name is Tim Wayne, and I worked in the legislature for nearly 30 years. And we all know that we live in a system that is dominated by the wealthy. It's dominated by the military corporations, the Boeings and the General Electrics and the Northrop Grumman and so forth. And these people set the stage for the crisis that we're experiencing today in the world. Thank you out there on the street. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to be the resistance. We have to be the ones that say no to those that now control our government. We are the terrorist nation. We are the ones that go into these countries where we have absolutely no business. We rob them of their independence and their autonomy. We demean them and we demoralize them with our power, our military power. It has to stop, ladies and gentlemen. I was on the streets of Boston. I was on the streets of New York. I was on the streets of Chicago during the Vietnam War, protesting that madness. And ladies and gentlemen, It is madness. What we're doing today is an extension of what we did in Vietnam, in Korea, and the abomination of even World War I and the Spanish-American War. We are not the noble nation that we are portrayed to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we are better than this, but our leaders devalue our values. And it's important that we stand up to these leaders, especially Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, and our delegation in Washington, except John Yarmouth. And we stand up to them, and we say no to the evil of war. God bless all of you for being here.
Thank you. Boo Mitch McConnell! Boo Mitch McConnell! Boo Mitch McConnell! Boo Mitch McConnell!
We're talking a couple of minutes, and somebody else come up and take the microphone from me, please. The U.S. does not fight for freedom and democracy around the world. Just a few examples. In 1953, we deposed the democratically elected Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran. 1954, we deposed the democratically elected Jacobo Arbenz in Guatemala. We have waged a terrorist war against Cuba. We have sanctions on Venezuela that have caused thousands and thousands of people to die. There's the war in Vietnam that killed millions of people. There's the war in Korea. There's, what am I missing? Chile.
Spanish-American War.
And all the others. There's the war in Iraq. Killed a couple million people over 25 years, including our sanctions. Sanctions are economic strangulation. They are completely illegal and immoral. Sanctions on Venezuela, sanctions on Russia, sanctions on, who am I missing? On Iran. It's just completely immoral and illegal. The United States does not, repeat, not fight for freedom and democracy around the world. If anything, the United States supports fascist dictatorships around the world. One of our greatest allies, quote-unquote allies, is Saudi Arabia, one of the most brutal regimes in the world, and they can do no wrong. It is terrible, the people that the United States supports all over the world. Who wants to talk? What do we want?
Peace!
When do we want it?
Now!
Is war the right thing?
No!
Is peace the right thing?
Yes! Peace now!
Let's get some more veterans for peace up here, or socialist workers, or democratic socialists, or yeah.
As a person of color, it is quite shocking to see that if you look.
Speaking to the mic,
Well,
right directly, real close.
oh, I'm sorry. Wow. As a person of color, you look around, you see how many people of color out here supporting something that they will go on Instagram, they'll go on Twitter, they'll go everywhere on social media and talk about how much they don't like Trump. But they don't come to these things right here and voice it and get together and just really, commiserate and show support for what they don't believe in. Keyboard warriors, as they're called, or trolls, or whatever you want to call them, just don't help the cause by going on social media. Because this is grassroots. And we need more grassroots moments. When I was growing up, it was like, oh yeah, you don't like war, but you'll stand out there in the cold, you'll do this, blah, blah, blah. And then as you get older and you see just simplest forever wars, you realize, wait a minute, I can't just stand on the sideline. As a person of color, you can't just stand there. People of color are Caucasian. People of color are, unless you're transparent, you're a person of color. Let's just be honest. White is a color.
So be visible.
Be visible. Hold a sign up. Support. Go out and forget religious ties, forget ideological ties, and just come out and say, look, this is wrong on a fundamental human level. And how do we stop that?
Good for you. Good
How
for
do we
you.
stand out there in the code and say it may not matter to 90% of the people in the coffee shop, may not matter to 90 people around the world, but for everyone honking the horns, everyone standing out here, it matters to them. And those people will go back to social media and say, you know what? I'm going to take photos, I'm going to take video, and I'm going to blast this and repost this. There's no reason in the world why Nicki Minaj should have 1,000 reposts, but this has, let's count it out here, how many people of color? Wow, this is insane. What happened? And as a person of color, we're the most vocal. Oh, they prefer it's white privilege. No, it's not. What it is stand up. You don't like white privilege? White privilege is people who worked hard and did what they needed to do. This is white privilege. This is privilege. Your privilege. This is your right to defend and stand up for minorities and people who don't want war, who want peace. So don't complain about white privilege or this person's holding me down or this or that. Do this. Let other people know that you are out here standing beside them arm in arm and fighting. You can't say Martin Luther King was a visionary and a legend and then not demonstrate what he believed in, although you'll praise him on MLK Day, but you won't praise him right here. That makes no sense. So thank you all for standing up for Iran, Iraq, Muslims, Christians, whatever your faith be, no faith, it doesn't matter. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for letting me get on the mic and rant a little bit of my frustrations with not only this government, but the state of America.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. What do you want?
Okay.
All right. Hey, what do you want?
Oh, you're good.
Hey, this is not squeezing. I always ask you just speak a little bit for the Louisville. We are focused on the Middle East, and we were very opposed to both of the wars against Iraq, which were unnecessary. They were just unnecessary wars started by the United States for no good reason. And if there's a war with Iran, it will be the same exact thing. Iran has not done anything to us. In fact, the United States historically has oppressed Iran in the past in the 1950s.
Oh, you're streaming?
Yeah.
Iran just wants to live in peace.
I'll give you one of these.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I only got one hand, so I'll let you grab one there. Sorry.
Aggression. I'm not making this up. These are just the facts. So it's good to be out here opposing this. There's one very powerful pro-war lobby in the United States that's promoting this war and has been trying to get this war started.
If you ever have any events you need covered, let me know.
okay.
That's called the Israel Lobby. The Israel Lobby wants the United States to fight Israel's wars for it. They want the United States to invade any country that Israel considers to be its enemy. That's why we invaded Iraq. Iraq used to be Israel's biggest enemy. Now Israel's declared Iran as its biggest enemy. And that's probably got a lot to do with why this is happening. So we have to oppose this war. It's unnecessary. It would be a terrible tragedy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Russ.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm not with any group. I'm just here as myself. But I wanted to address something about the makeup of the crowd that was addressed. I participated in Occupy ICE. I watched Black Lives Matter day in, day out give up their free time, their work time sometimes, their money, their food, and everything to protect children. And I won't have that maligned. Black Lives Matter is doing things in this community, feeding people, keeping people in their homes. And I'm not a member of Black Lives Matter, but I see their work and I support their work. And they are on the front lines doing what they can do. Because they're not here in the Highlands today does not mean they don't care. They were at Mitch McConnell's house. They were in the streets in front of ICE. They've done everything that they can do, and it's our time to step up and say, no more. No more locking children in cages. No more unjust wars. No more white privilege. And yes, I'm standing here using my white privilege to say no more white privilege. I don't want another young person to die. I used to be a teacher, well, an after-school care director, and the children that I had would be in the draft age right now. I don't want them to die. I don't want my nieces and nephews and my great-nieces and nephews to die in an unjust war. The rich are going to make money, and the rest of us are going to pay the price. No more war. 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 Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Okay, I'll give you this in 1 second. I'll try to remember this quote. It's a quote that is on my mind all the time. It's a Thomas Merton quote. He said, "Oh, the Lord is good to the man of peace. But I stumbled in my mind over these men of war, rich and fat, with big cigars and cars. The more they have, the more they hate, and hate rolls down their face like drops of sweat."
Hello, I'm Rosie. I am a part of Black Lives Matter. I'm part of Stand Up Sunday, which is the multiracial group that supports the work of Black Lives Matter. I'm also the co-founder of Reparations Roundtable, which supports the work of Black Lives Matter and redistributes wealth and resources from the haves to the have-nots here locally in Louisville and also around the country and internationally. And I wanted to also address pieces of the race conversation. I'm also wearing a Mi Gente shirt, and as an accomplice to both the Black Lives Matter movement and movements for Latinx folks, La Casita Center, Mi Gente, those groups that are here locally, I would be remiss if I didn't point out some of the reasons that we do have the makeup of the crowd that we do today. We have to understand that a lot of the Latinx folks who are people of color can't be here because they're undocumented and do not have that privilege. It is dangerous for them to show up at events like this because they will be deported. And in the state that we're talking about right now, we cannot push for them to be here and put their lives on the line in that way. That is white privilege, and that's why it is our job as white folks to stand up against this. And the other point I want to make about that is that the reason that we have undocumented folks in this country is because of U.S. imperialism. So when we go to other countries and we destabilize other countries, and then we have massive caravans of folks come to this country to seek sanctuary because of the fuck shit that the U.S. did, we cannot, we cannot turn them away. We're not even willing to say that Louisville's a sanctuary city, but we want to go to war and continue to fuck up other countries and to continue turning people away from this country for the shit that we're doing. It's not okay. And I also want to point out, Stephen Gardner made some really great points about the fact that there is a war going on right here in our country, and policing is a piece of imperialism and militarism. I can't say that word, it's fine. But policing is a big part of that. So when we see police brutality take place against Black lives, again, it is dangerous for them to show up at events like this. We cannot expect them to do that in droves. And yes, Black Lives Matter is doing work. La Casita Center is doing work. Mi Gente is doing work. They are every day supporting their communities. And I'm sorry, their communities are not at Heine Brothers in the Highlands.
My name is Matt. I'm also with Louisville Committee for Peace in the Middle East. As Russ Greenlee said, we focus a lot on the Palestinian rights movement. But I just wanted to say, you know, we helped organize this event, and one of our members did contact Black Lives Matter, and they did agree to support this. And on Facebook, they are a co-sponsor as a Stand Up Sunday. So they are aware and supportive, you know. And I would just say, you know, a lot of people, you know, maybe from the West End, it takes 2-3 buses to get here. So let's keep that in mind. So, you know, we're at Douglas Street on Bardstown Road. So, you know, so, but, yeah, that's just important to remember.
Thank you, Matt. I was going to say war is a tremendous brain drain. It's terrible that so many people can only find a good career in the military. We have a limited amount of time to solve the climate problem. We have a limited amount of time to solve our ecological problems. We need brain power and money to be dedicated to that. Instead, we've got money and brain power dedicated to blowing people up. There's so much technology, so much engineering that goes into the war machine. That engineering needs to go into solar power and wind power and electric trains and things like that. You know, we need to face our actual threats, not our imaginary threats.
Hello. So, as we say in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, which means peace be upon you, basically. So Mina Ashaitani Irajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So that's a short prayer, basically, upon this place. Protect us from Shaitan, or Satan, in the English, right? And in the name of Allah, the most benevolent, the most righteous. I pray that He allows me to speak with clarity and with good words. So, as I'm standing in front of you, my name is Clara, by the way, Clara Rufflinger. I've done lots of work with all kinds of different organizations at different times. I was with Occupy ICE for a while. I was part of the Haber 9, one of the 9 people that got arrested in that. I have done things in and out with Reparations Roundtable, with BLM, just moving in and out of lots of different spaces. And I want to clarify a few more things before I begin talking in depth. I am white. I am a white convert to Islam. I am 3 years Muslim, 2 years wearing the hijab. So my experiences and what I'm going to talk about today in no way represent the communities of Iraq, Iran, Syria, Palestine, any of these communities. My experience only represent me, myself, and I, which is a white woman who's Muslim, yes, and who has worn hijab for about 2 years now. Another part about myself that I guess I wanted to come up and talk about, there are lots of things that I was thinking about. I want to address some of the points about why some people aren't here within the Muslim community. Also, there are all kinds of reasons why people aren't here. A lot of people are away on break, actually. In Louisville, a large part of the Muslim community are people from university, and so it's break still, and so many people are away with their families. Another reason is that Louisville has a very large refugee population, and refugees, not only do they come to this country without being able to speak the language, they have less access to transportation, etc., etc. All of the other issues that you're going to find when you have new immigrants to a country who are living in relative poverty, right? So, and then other reasons include simply fear of having lived in a country that was much more repressive, or not knowing or understanding that they can come out and protest, or fear of what that'll happen, or what will happen to them, right? So I wanted to address that first and foremost. The other things that I really wanted to talk about is, another thing about me is that I'm also a teacher at Noor Islamic School, right? And I teach, directly I teach about, I guess, 20 to 30 young students from the Islamic community, from many of these countries, right? I have students from Northern Africa, students from Palestine, students from Iraq, and all I can keep thinking about is, and I'm their social studies teacher, so all I can think about is how I'm going to have to go back on Monday and I'm going to have to talk to them about what's happening in the world right now and what that's going to mean for them. And I always think about that. And I don't know how I'm going to have that conversation with them yet. Because they're so full of life and so beautiful and kind and young and joyful. And so much is going to happen to them that I cannot help them with. And if we're going to stop the sort of things that are going to hurt children like them, we cannot just, it's not a matter of just voting for someone or voting someone out. It's not a matter of just volunteering at one place or another. It's a matter of all hands on deck. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. One quick note. Islamophobia is an industry. Islamophobia is an industry that is used to cause war.
Well, those of us who have been through Vietnam and all the other wars since then know that singing is part of it. So if you want to join up, we'll sing We Shall Overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Let's give it to Trump. We shall not be moved. Let's give it to Trump. We shall not be moved like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Keep the troops right here. We shall not be moved. Keep the troops right here. We shall not be moved like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Woo!
Thank you. Who else?
Yeah, my name is Ned Measle. I'm with the Socialist Workers Party. With the Socialist Workers Party. You know, the endless wars didn't start with Donald Trump. They're the product of capitalism, of imperialism. Right now there's a crisis in the United States and around the world. There's a moral, economic, and social crisis. What's the force that's capable of reversing that? I think it's the working class. The Socialist Workers' Party campaigns by going door to door in working class neighborhoods. I'll tell you what I find there. I find almost universal opposition to U.S. wars. What we need to do is figure out how we can mobilize that, how we can organize ourselves. I think we need a labor party in the United States, a party of the working class, a party that's independent of the capitalists, of their government, of their state, of their media, that determines its own domestic and foreign policy. And not one that is an electoral party. We can run candidates. Socialist Workers' Party runs candidates. We're running Margaret Trowell right now for U.S. Senate. She's a Walmart worker. We run workers and we organize among workers because we think that it's the working class that can resolve the crisis. Not the politicians, not the capitalist state, not the capitalist government. But it's the working class. And we have allies. We should keep our eyes on the toilers of the Middle East. Right now there are growing demonstrations in Iraq against U.S. intervention and interference, against imperialism, and against Iranian interference in Iraq. There's growing protests in Iran against the war policies of the mullahs, the cleric government that runs Iran. We should support those. We should draw strength from those. We need to begin to build a working class movement that can take on the real question, which is capitalism. Capitalism is the problem. That is the source of wars. And that needs to end. What we need is a way to organize ourselves independently and build a labor party. And support what struggles we do see around us. Right now there's a hard-fought strike in Arizona and Texas against the Asarco copper mining company. 7 unions are involved in this strike. It's not an easy battle. They need solidarity, they need help, they need financial support from around the country. When other strikes like that, when we begin to fight, that's what's going to change things. It's our actions. Voting is just a tiny little, what you do every 2 or 4 years behind a curtain, pull a lever, that doesn't change anything. What changes it is our actions. So that's what we need to do. Look for the battles that are taking place around us. There are. What about when the black jewel miners stood on the tracks and got their money back, or at least a lot of their money back? They didn't get every dime they were owed, but they would have got nothing if they hadn't fought. We have to look to those fights when they happen and link up with those, join those, become part of those, and build a working class movement that can change this system once and for all.
Thank you so much. Give him a big hand.
So I'm literally just like a guy off the street. I was walking up to the store just to go grab some stuff, and I saw this, and it's inspiring to see that people are actually concerned about, especially what's going on in the Middle East. As a concerned citizen, particularly as somebody who is of, eligible military service age, I am definitely concerned about where this is going to go, because we currently have a president who acts on literally a whim to assassinate a top military official. And it is I think it's concerning if you look at, events like what's going on with North Korea right now, what he could do with that. And where does this take us? Because, it's not, I'll be honest, it's not the 55-year-olds here, it's not the 60-year-olds here that fight the wars, it's me. It's the young people here. It's the young people that are going to get pursued by recruiters to the ends of the earth now. It's the people who are going to be pursued, who are looking for some sort of opportunity who are going to be encouraged to go into military service and fight these wars that have almost no point to them. I mean, look at what's come out from the Washington Post in the past couple of months. These papers that have basically said that there was no point to the war in Afghanistan.
Tell it.
There was no point to the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
What's the point of this? What's the point of killing this guy? What does it do? All it does is inspire organizations like Hezbollah, all these organizations to come after us, to continue the endless wars. And hopefully this is part of something. This needs to continue. We need to bring back the calling cry of hell no, we won't go. It's damn right, hell no, we won't go. I won't go. I'm not going to fight the rich man's war. For what? I'm not getting anything about it. Hell no, I won't go.
Woo!
Very good.
Thank you.
Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go.
Troops out now! U.S. out of the Middle East! Now!
And South Asia, and Africa, and Europe, and East Asia.
Everywhere, please.
U.S. out of the U.S.
Hi, I'm Katie. Basically, I've been vibrating since yesterday morning, so I'm just kind of speaking from the heart today. So 9/11 happened when I was about 9 years old. So then gas prices went up, camo came into fashion, Green Day put out American Idiot, and then nothing ever got better. It's been about, what, 20 years since? Something like that? I'm pissed. Today I am pissed. Oh my god. Oh my... I am fucking pissed. I was making sure I could say that. Oh, god. I grew up in coal country. Eastern Kentucky, right next to West Virginia. And that's where people my age get poked for military service. What do they call it again? Like I said, I'm vibrating. What is it called? The pre-military JROTC. Thank you. They are all over the place at those schools. They will take anybody looking for an opportunity, looking for a way out, and for some of them, that's the only way out, and that sucks. And that is not how it should be. And these people, these poor disenfranchised people, are going to fight a rich man's war, and they're going to die in those wars, and they are going to get mental illness from those wars, anxiety, depression, PTSD. And the ones who don't die will have to live with that for decades, for the rest of their lives. I am a mortician. I've seen veterans who have killed themselves many years later. I'm just like, nobody deserves to live like that. Nobody deserves that. That's no way to live. Just because somebody wants oil money, or somebody wants to jerk off and show how powerful they are, because they just... Oh, I'm sorry. I got Klonopin in the car. I'm gonna go take one in a second. But this is the time to stand with each other. This is the time to look out for each other. I'm scared, and I am pissed, and I am so fucking tired of this. I don't want to live the rest of my life this way, just to be scared of what comes next on my newsreel, guys. I don't want to be scared anymore. I don't want anybody else to be scared anymore. This is not how it should be. More articulate than this, but I'm just gonna... articulate. Thank you. When I run home, I'm gonna hear about so-and-so went to war. Half my graduating class going to war. I swear it's gonna happen. I just know it. That's what happens. I don't want that to happen to people I knew, people I grew up with. Now's the time to say no. Fuck no, we're not going. We're not doing it today. Not today. Not tomorrow. No war, please, okay?
Your big hand. No more war. No more war. No more war. No more war.
No more war. No more war.
So in the early 1970s, they ended the draft, but we still have the economic draft. People go into the military because they don't have enough other good career choices. I dream of a time when we don't have military training skills. We don't have
Great on you. That's a good question.
Stop here. Here we are. And 5, 6, 7. Open up the curtain gate. Well, hey, there ain't no time to wonder why we're all gonna die.
I'd just like to maybe answer my own question about what can we do. One thing my husband does is he calls the congressman every day. He stays in touch, he watches the news. If he sees something, he's on the phone right away, calling that person that made a comment. And he does this 3-4 times a day, sometimes more when there's something going on. So go online. You can find their contact information online. Just Google their name and call them very often and let them know how you feel. I had talked to one of my Congress representatives, Thomas Massey, unfortunately, and he told me really the only way that people pay attention is when you call them. That not even emails, but calling is what they pay the most attention to. So please call and call often. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Crane, the Veterans for Peace.
Hi, I'm Corey with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. We're proudly the Instant Coalition, which is acting on Stop War and End Racism. I just wanted to say a few words. I was hoping some of our more scholarly and speechful people would be here today, but it's just me and Brian. So I just wanted to say, the Anti-Coalition called this protest today, actually 4 days ago, when 25 people were killed in Syria, an Iranian-backed militia, freedom fighters in Syria, who were destroyed by a U.S. airstrike. We have continued to engage in Syria where we are not welcome or wanted, where we say we are freedom fighters and we are not. And the U.S. wants to claim, our generals want to claim right now, that this attack against Soleimani was because he killed some of our forces in Syria.
Hey Harold, how you doing?
We are freedom fighters in Syria.
Off. We met a few times, friends on Facebook.
Sure. How you doing?
All right, how's it going?
Good, glad you made it. I saw your message.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people around, press and Prairie Journal and stuff.
I'm glad to see it. It's
nice
it's rare. I usually come to these things and it's just me as far as media. So
we did our demonstrations once a month out here for a long time for Iraq.
Yeah.
You know, we get down to 2 or 3 people. And finally gave it up. But we're going to maybe get back into something like this.
That's good, yeah.
Because what impresses me, Rolf, is it's the young people. You know, look around and there's a lot of younger people. This young lady right here.
Hello.
Caitlin, yeah. Okay, thanks for coming out.
After the killing of Custom, we recognize these acts as areas of ruling class moving through
I'm off. I'm with the Louisville ProActivist Report. I'm recording this whole thing, so. Louisville ProActivist Report. I do independent media, basically. I have a card. Sorry, I'm short on hands here, so.
We see each other on Facebook a lot, too.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
That's a good medium for me.
Take one there.
Talk to you later, Rolf. I'll see you. Bye. Thank you.
Hey, Harold, would you like to be on camera before I get out of here? If not, it's cool. It's up to you.
Sure.
Okay. Just,
what, you want to?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Just, your opinion on the Iran situation and how to follow Veterans for Peace. You up for it?
Sure.
All right. You want to do it now or you want to wait?
Okay, you do it now.
I'll answer your question real quick. What's that?
No, it's okay. You can do this.
Basically, I focus on activist organizations, anybody working in the community to better the community. So, yeah, just me. It's just me. I don't make any money. I just do it to do it. So, yeah. If you're going to be around for a few minutes, I can talk to you here in a minute. All right, sounds good.
Sometimes, but
well, we're not in for results. That's beyond our control.
Yeah.
We just do the right thing first.
That's true. It
Follow our hearts.
See if I can get a little space here so I'm not all on your face.
You don't have to use it. I'm not very photogenic, and
So thank you.
So I can film this. I just want to get you on here. I'm here with Harold Traylor with Veterans for Peace. So thanks for joining me here today.
Peace! Now!
So what made you join Veterans for Peace to begin with?
Well, I'm a Vietnam veteran and experienced the Vietnam War and learned that was not the thing to do. And after studying, reading, and learning, I decided that I needed to do something. And Veterans for Peace and Vietnam Veterans Against the War were organizations where I could become involved and do something progressive, helpful.
And I know you've been working on these kind of issues for a while.
We've been working on it ever since the Iraq War, for sure. So it's been 20 years or so, 19 years, and so it's been quite a long time. And in some cases we've been successful. In other cases, with our president in his actions and with the Quds General, I'm not sure if it's paying off already right now.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit now. You've obviously been anti-war for a long time, like I have, and you see all these wars come and not so much go anymore. But what makes Iran different? Because to me, this is different. This is a bigger situation. What's your opinion on it?
Well, you can go all the way back to 1900, where the U.S. Standard Oil went looking for oil there and became involved in Iran because they had a source of oil. And from then on, 1900s all the way up to the present, we've exploited Iran for their oil. And we've exploited them using military and other instruments of national power, diplomatic. And it's boiled down to the point where during the Iran war, we helped Iraq. And we provided weapons for them, biological weapons, And Iran never forgot it. And as a result of that, them losing 1 million people, they decided that they would become more offensive. And they formed the Quds Force with this general and located throughout the Middle East, including in Iraq. And they were present when we invaded Iraq in 2003. And they became an adversary as well as some of the Sunni Iraqis. And so we've always had this thing against Iran, but then you throw in Israel because of the relationship between Israel and Iran, and it became even a bigger subject.
Right. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think this is going to escalate fully, or what do you expect?
No, I think Iran is a rational country. You may not agree with their religion or fundamentalism or other things, but overall they're a rational country that wants to thrive and it wants to do well. And I don't think you're going to see irrational actions, but you will see some action. I think they'll strike back in some fashion. I think they have to do that in order to save face.
I understand. Yeah, I'd agree with that. So anything else you want to add to this?
No, I just look positive. I really think this action taken by our government was a way to change the subject for Trump. They could have arrested this general in the airport when he arrived from Damascus and interrogated him and learned from him. But that would have created a real problem too, more than. But we decided to just assassinate him. And this made Trump look like he's a muscle man in military, and that it takes people's minds off of his impeachment and his election capability. So,
just finish up. Tell people where they can find Veterans for Peace online.
Okay, you can just look up Veterans for Peace on Facebook. Go vfp.org, and you'll end up with Veterans for Peace. And we have a local chapter, Chapter 168. You can go to Veterans for Peace, Louisville 168.org. And it'll pop up on Facebook. And it'll also pop up if you do a Google search on it, too. And it'll give you all the information that you need to have in order to join or at least to participate in it.
I appreciate your time so much. This Harold Trainer, everybody with Veterans for Peace. Check them out online. If you can make it to his events, show up to his events. I appreciate what you do and what you all do, man. So thank you so much.
We appreciate your help, Lord.
All right.
Thank you. Nice
I'll see you around.
Again. Bye.
Other countries in here. I don't think it's for defending democracy. If the U.S. cared so much about democracy, then we wouldn't have a president who was elected on a minority vote. He didn't even get the popular vote. We certainly wouldn't be playing ball with Saudi Arabia. And so I think the best way that we can find the answer is to follow the money. And man named Eugene Debs once said that wars throughout history have been waged for conquest and plunder. And a war in Iran would be no different. So it's up to us to oppose this war, and it's not going to stop on its own. Because the capitalists which rule this country, they only care about their profits, and they don't care about human lives. And they've proven that time and time again. So it's great to see everyone out here. It is the duty of everyone to band together and stop war. And I think this is the best thing that we should be doing today. But what about the next day? What about the coming months and the coming years? And I think that the most effective way to fight war is to fight the mechanism that supports it, which is capitalism. Capitalism has always survived on war and violence and oppression. And we need to build a revolutionary party to fight it. So if anyone is interested, I am passing around a sign-up sheet. SSR, the student club at U of L, once the semesters are running, we meet once a week. And the IMT branch, we also meet once a week. and we get together and discuss what must be done, and this is a prerequisite to action. There's a famous quote that says, "Without revolutionary theory, there can be no revolutionary movement." But we also need action, which is why we need to combine both. So, hit me up.
Thank you, Will. Martin Luther King said the people who love peace must organize as much as those who love war.
Cold out here,
so what I have to say is organize, organize,
I'm one gloving it, so as you can see.
Organize, organize, organize. Organize, organize, organize.
Can I grab a sign?
Absolutely.
Organize, organize.
Hey everybody, looks like a lot of people have left already, and I just want to say that this concludes the Veterans for Peace portion from noon to 1, and I appreciate everybody coming out. Feel free to stay around. This is your thing too, so thank you everybody for coming
Wrap
out.
this up so I can do a little networking.
Thank you, Carol Trainer, and Harold Trainer, and Steve Gardner, and others from Veterans for Peace.
You don't have to.
Anybody else who you have an organization and you're here and you want to say
I need
something?
to talk to you about some things, though.
I forgot, we have a Facebook
do that
page,
after
so
that.
please like Veterans for
make
Peace
sure
Chapter
what I say is
168
educated
on Facebook. We also have a website, so check us out.
Gotcha.
We have associate
Can I get you in the
members
sign-on?
and veteran members, so everybody's welcome if
She
you'd like
was
to
just
join us.
telling you how
Thank
to get a hold of Veterans for Peace too. You got a chance.
So one question is, how do we get going after today?
Yeah, that's what
I just invite you to get plugged in. So any of these organizations, reach out, connect with people. The powers that be love for us to be isolated. They love for us to be atomized. They love for us to be just isolated from one another. So reach out and get connected with any of the organizations that are here. Veterans for Peace, Jewish Voice for Peace, the Socialist Workers, Socialist Revolution, who else? Louisville Committee for Peace in the Middle East, Students for Justice in Palestine. I know I'm missing somebody, but Louisville Peace Action Committee. But stay connected and keep coming back.
All right. Just a sign holding.
Who wants to just introduce yourself and say what motivates you to be here? Harold, why don't you talk about your military service and what motivates you to be part of Veterans for Peace?
Vietnam, brother. It's really important for me to for peace. Realize that the utility of war is not the answer. And I learned that after my experience in Vietnam. And so, got the Veterans for Peace and Vietnam Veterans Against the War. And so here we are. And my wife, Carol's the vice president. Also, Steve Gardner is the president. And it's a growing organization and dedicated to peace and social justice. Thank you all very much for coming. It's been a real nice turnout. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold.
Would you be willing to do me a favor?
Yeah.
You want to be my camera woman for about 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Let's walk over here a little bit. I don't know if we can get around or not. I just want to do a quick wrap up and actually be on camera when I do it.
Yeah, you should. And
Hey guys, what's your name and what motivates you to be here?
Okay.
Good.
Should I cue like 1, 2, 3? Ready?
You got me on?